few months ago, a friend of my sister's asked her the dumbest question, and ever since she told me about it, I have been obsessed with it. Based on the title of this video, I know you expect this to be like the dumbest question ever in the history of questions, and maybe it's not that bad, but the fact that this was a question to begin with is what makes it super, super dumb. The question, why are you guys Christian? Well, me specifically, I'm Catholic, but for shorthand, we're gonna go with that old Christian umbrella. This question sounds inane, and it is. It's super inane. On first hearing it, you might think it's a silly and kind of weird question, but upon further analysis, the dumbness and the racism become very, very apparent. Today I'm going to break down the 3 main ways this question can be interpreted and why I'm obsessed with it. There are probably more ways to interpret it, but not every single video I make has to be close to 30 minutes or more. We're gonna stick with these 3 main ways. We'll see how I do with this one. ¿Listos? Let's do it. Interpretation 1. Straightforward. To be fair to this person who asked this question, I will answer the question like it's not super dumb or super racist, even though we know it is. I'm not saying this person is super dumb and super racist. They just happen to say dumb and racist things quite often. But that's a topic for a different video, so we're not going to touch that one right now. And just because I'm giving this person the benefit of the doubt doesn't mean I'm not going to be incredibly snarky when it comes to this answer. This first section is best divided into 3 parts. Why are we Christian? Part 1. Because of Emperor Constantine. A mini history lesson for you, mi familia. Back in the 300s, Año Domini, or Common Era, however it is you choose to count your years, a dude named Constantine became the emperor of the Roman Empire. Up until Constantine came along, Christianity in the Roman Empire was illegal. Emperor Constantine not only made Christianity legal, but he helped spread it throughout the Roman Empire. In particular, Western Europe, aka the only part of the world that matters. Sorry, rest of the world. Emperor Constantine and the First Council of Nicaea back in 325 established a lot of the basic stuff we know about the Christian church and Christianity itself. Things like the books of the Bible, the Holy Trinity, and when Easter should be celebrated. If you're a good Catholic, you'll know that this is where the Nicene Creed came from. Constantine, the guy who made Christianity popular. Part 2. Because of the Spanish in Spain. Back in the 700s, Islamic Arabs and the Moors crossed the Strait of Gibraltar from Africa into the Iberian Peninsula of Hispania and conquered the Visigoth Christians. Spain and Portugal weren't countries yet, they were just Roman provinces called Hispania. España. The Moors and Islamic Arabs were able to conquer most of what is modern-day Spain and Portugal. The kingdom of Asturias, in the northeastern part of the peninsula, was able to remain Catholic, and like good Catholics, they decided to do what was called the Reconquista, reconquer Hispania for Catholics. The kingdoms of Asturias, Navarre, Galicia, León, and others fought for over 700 years to kick out the Moors and make Hispania Christian again. In 1480, most of Spain and Portugal went back to being Catholic and forced every single person on the peninsula to be Catholic or die. In order to ensure conversion, the Spanish Inquisition happened. It took until 1492 for the last Muslim stronghold to be defeated in Spain. That not only left Spain and Portugal to be extremely Catholic, but also stopped Islam from spreading to the rest of Europe. Part 3. The Spanish in Latin America. To prove how well the Reconquista went, Spain in an attempt at Big Pito energy, sent folks over to the New World to spread Christianity and get rich quick. After tremendous jerk and liar Hernan Cortes conquered Mexico and the Mexica, a bunch of religious folks were brought in to convert all the native soulless heathens to Catholicism. The most famous of these religious groups were the Franciscans, known as the 12 Apostles of Mexico. How were their attempts at conversion so successful? There is no one clear account of what happened. From what I can piece together, after disease and genocide eliminated about 70+% of the native population, the ones who were left were in no position to fight back or to resist, and had to convert or else. A lot of the priests did get native people on their side by combining their native traditions with Catholic traditions. Others did go full Spanish Inquisition on these poor people. There was also the important indoctrination of European/white supremacy. In Latin America, there was, and still kind of is, what is called a casta system. A casta system is a system of racial hierarchy. At the top are the peninsulares, the people directly from Spain, and at the bottom are the negros, or African slaves, with criollo, castizo, mestizo, indio, pardo, mulatto, and zambo between the top and the bottom. Miscegenation wasn't really looked down upon for the most part, and because of this, a lot of Latin America is obsessed with colorism. Because of this obsession with colorism, the best thing you can do is marry someone who is, or at least looks, white. Since a lot of us have that white/European is superior mentality, we strive for excellence. And that extends to the Catholic Christian religion. As I pointed out in my Dia de los Muertos video, the upper classes of Mexico really hate the indigenous people and their traditions. They're seen as the lowest of the low class. And like in many societies, you don't want to be seen as lower class. So the whiteness and the Christianity was embraced extra hard. All of us Latino children have a super religious parent, grandparent, tío, tía, or all of the above. Catholics also smartly do this thing that makes conversion easier. While converting native people, the Catholics would pick an important deity from the native folks' religion and make that deity a saint or a virgin. Allegedly, that is what happened with La Virgen de Guadalupe, also known as La Virgencita Morena. And that's an important thing to note. La Virgen de Guadalupe started out as the goddess of life, protector of women, defeater of Quetzalcoatl, Tonantzin. Allegedly, again, the Catholic priests made Tonantzin into La Virgen de Guadalupe to help convert all the native folks of Mexico to Catholicism. These Catholics knew the importance of representation, bizarrely enough. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus Cristo isn't going to do a thing to help get brown people on your side. La Virgencita Morena, a boss woman with melanin, will. That's also why you'll see a lot of Latin people who have more devotion to saints or virgins than Jesus Cristo or God. An important religious figure who looks like and gives hope to the oppressed, sign us up. Interpretation dos. That's a bold assumption. Why are we Christian? I'm gonna have to answer that question with a question. If we're not some flavor of Christian, then what should we be? And I know this isn't a why aren't you atheist or why haven't you converted to a religion that suits your ulterior motives. It's not that kind of question. This is a you come from a colonized people, why aren't you practicing the religion of the native people you come from kind of question. There are a lot of bold assumptions that come with this question. Let's break down a couple of them. Bold assumption 1, we are all either more indigenous or first generation mestizos. The mixing of races in Latin America started way back in the 1500s. And today, in a place like Mexico, for example, only about 20% of the population is some degree of indigenous. Most of us are a pretty crazy mix of ethnicities. Native, Spanish, Middle Eastern, North African, West African, German, Italian, French, Asian, and who knows what the hell else is in there. So we're less straight mestizo and way more genetically superior because of all of the amazing bloodlines that flow through our veins. We are all mixed race. All of us. With that kind of diversity, which part should we choose to honor? Which belief system should we be following? And also remember, 70+% of the indigenous population died because of the conquest. A surprising number of us are way more European than native. In my whiteness video, I point out how we need a category for Anglo-Latinos, because of how white it turns out we actually are. And not just from Spain, from Germany too. Bold assumption number 2. Let's just say, we're more mestizo or more native. Let's just say. It's a bold assumption to think we know exactly from what tribe we come from. Some of us know, most of us don't. You might think, well, aren't you guys Aztec? No, not necessarily. The Mexica were only one tribe that was in control of the Central Valley of Mexico for less than 100 years. And they were wiped out by disease and the Spanish almost completely. The Mexica are the best known tribe, but there are literally a ton of others. A lot of Mexican Americans don't know a thing about the native side of their heritage, so they choose to associate with the one tribe they've heard of, the Aztecs. But most likely, most of us are from a tribe that was an enemy of the Mexica, or was from a tribe that didn't even know the Mexica existed. The Mexica tried to conquer and dominate as many tribes as they could, and during that whole process, they made a lot of enemies. So very well, many of us could be from a tribe that joined forces with the Spanish to help bring down that Mexica Aztec empire, based on geography alone, and this is completely a guess. If I do, in fact, have native blood, it's from the one tribe that the Mexica could never conquer. And I'm saying if, in fact, I do have native blood, not because I'm ashamed of that part of my heritage, only because based on genetic features I and my family have, it's more likely that we're way more European than native, but who knows? Genetics are super wild. Bold assumption number 3. There was a choice between Christianity and any other religion. If today you try to declare yourself an atheist or you try to change religions, mijo or mija, que Dios te bendiga y te proteja from your overly religious family. Because I can guarantee you someone in your family will try and shame you and make you pay at the very least lip service to whatever religion your family is a part of. Aside from being persuaded every which way into becoming Catholic, the Spanish also destroyed almost everything cultural and religious the indigenous people had. Even if we wanted to worship and follow those indigenous religious traditions, there is really no way to know how to do so. A lot of the history and traditions we do know about are either passed down through family, it's a Christianized tradition, or it's a bunch of guesses based on scraps of information here and there. Remember, nearly all of the Mexica were wiped out because of disease and genocide, as were a ton of other tribes. Mexico and other Latin American countries have been home to people from the entire world for centuries now. We are less native than you think we are. As I pointed out in my video about Mexican food, we are the originators not only of fusion food, but of cultural fusion. Everyone and everything gets mixed in and enriches the entire world. Interpretation 3. Why it's racist. There are 2 main reasons why this question is racist. We are at the end of 2020, and a chingo ton of things have happened since the conquest over 5 centuries ago. There is this idea that that all folks who come from or are descended of places that are not the West are frozen in time. Native Americans still live in teepees. Mexicans still speak Nahuatl and do human sacrifice. Africa is just one huge jungle with no major cities or modernization of any kind. The Middle East is nothing but desert and camels. Even in a place like France, we think of people just wearing striped shirts and berets and eating escargots every single day. Outside of the modern West, no one else is seen as modern, as if the cultures and traditions of other places don't influence and affect each other. At this point in time, we are all pretty much the same, except for a few key differences. For me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, I'm just trying to survive in the world, and it hasn't been until fairly recently that there has been a curiosity about my roots. We have, for centuries now, been told to stop being so ethnic and be more white, more European. So it's rather dumb and kind of racist to think that after all of this time, we'll have a full and complete knowledge of every single aspect of our ethnic backgrounds. If white folks can be ignorant about their backgrounds, why are ethnic people expected to know every single thing about theirs? Especially when so much of it has been erased. Why not ask that question of other colonized people? Not just other brown and black people, but of white folks too. Yes, white folks have been colonized as well. What the English did here to the native people and to black people, they did first to the Irish, to the Welsh, and to the Scottish people. Famously, the Irish have been in conflict with the English for centuries, trying to get their land back. When the English conquered the Scottish, they killed a lot of Scottish language, traditions, and people. Folks from Wales defiantly still speak Welsh to separate themselves as much as possible from the English. The people from these places were not originally Christian, but thanks to the English and the Romans, they are now Christian. It's very racist to think that only a few select groups of people have been colonized, when every single group of people around the world have been affected directly or indirectly by colonialism. Remember, just because you might look white doesn't mean that you're part of that dominant, colonizing, true group of white people. Conclusion. As much as I'm picking on this person who asked this super dumb and super racist question, I'm actually glad they asked it. At the very least, it shows that they're trying to be less ignorant. The new year is coming up, and I want to encourage everybody to be more curious and learn more about different cultures and different people. Knowledge is the enemy of hatred and racism. There is also a lot of power in being smart and continue to be curious about the world around you. We all have the internet on our phones. Let's use that power for good for once.